The Tang and Song China. After the Han Dynasty fell in AD 220, the Sui Dynasty rose in 581. The Sui Dynasty's greatest accomplishment was the Great Canal, a work that connected the Huanghe and the Changjing rivers together, stretching 1,000 miles, allowing trade to flourish. Not only that, rebuilding the Great Wall was another huge accomplishment, but caused overtaxation and thousands of deaths from the toiling work. And then in 618, the Sui emperor was assassinated. Then the Tang Dynasty came about and lasted about 300 years under the Emperor Tang Taizong. He reconquered lands that China had lost since the decline of the Han. By then, China had extended its influence over Korea as well. And then in 660, Wu Zhao gave herself the title of empress and was the first and only woman to do so. Tang rulers strengthened their central government, and they also expanded their network of roads and canals. This promoted foreign trade and the improvements of agriculture. They revived and restored the civil service system, for before they were able to do so, there were few noble families that dominated the country. Although it was a system with flaws, it made a stable government. All this helped to pull the empire together. The Tang Dynasty eventually lost power in the mid-700s when they imposed heavy taxes. It failed to cover the costs of the military, and slowly border attacks and internal rebellions caused the decline of the imperial government. And finally, the Tang Dynasty finished when in 907 Chinese rebels sacked and burned the Tang capital and murdered the last Tang emperor, who was a child. After the Tang Dynasty fell, China was divided into separate kingdoms. But then in 960, a general Taizu reunited China and named himself as the first Song emperor. The Song, like the Tang, also lasted around 300 years. Although they ruled a smaller empire than the Tang, China was still very prosperous and powerful. Song rulers established their capital at Guangzhou. There was a rapid economic growth, and cities grew rich from trade. There was also a huge population growth in China over the Tang and Song dynasties. By the Song dynasty, the Song had at least 10 cities with a population of at least 1 million each. Due to this extreme population growth, China imported a new variety of fast-ripening rice from Vietnam, which allowed farmers to harvest twice a year instead of just once. By then, China had not only become the most populous country, but also one of the most advanced. Some advances include the invention of gunpowder, the movable type, porcelain, the mechanical clock, paper money, and the magnetic compass. Trade was also flourishing, for the great Silk Roads connected China to the west, and the ocean trade became more powerful due to the advances of sailing because of the magnetic compass. One major cultural export was Buddhism. The religion ended up spreading from China to Vietnam, Korea, and Japan. But the exchange of goods and ideas were two-way. Christianity and Islam also got spread to China through trade. There was a golden age of art and poetry for Tang poets like Li Bao and Tu Fu. Li Bao's writing was about life's pleasures, and Tu Fu's writing was about war and the hardships of soldiers. Not only was poetry there, art was influenced by Taoists in the Song dynasty. Artists really emphasized the beauty of nature. Also, society and its levels were a major part of culture in China as well. The gentry was the upper class of scholar officials due to the rebirth of the civil service system. Then below that was the urban middle class consisting of merchants and shopkeepers. Then were the laborers and soldiers, and finally under that were the peasants that served the wealthy landowners. Because society was a major part of Chinese culture, and women had a certain status, women had to be subservient to men, and women's work was considered less important overall. One custom the Chinese brought about around this time was foot binding. When a girl was young, they would curl their toes under the heel, breaking the arch and producing what was called a lily foot. This crippled the woman for life, but was a symbol of status of man who could afford such a beautiful but such impractical wife. It was part of Chinese culture, and even though painful and kind of dumb, the Chinese considered it a part of their society and culture. Overall, everything that happened during the time of the Tang and the Song dynasty helped to shape Chinese civilizations and Chinese culture today.